Welcome back. Now, most of us have had that feeling. You look in your rearview mirror and you see that flashing red and blue lights of a police officer are pulling you over and your heart just jumps up into your throat.
Yep, well, it's a situation we would all like to avoid, but if it happens, it would be great to know the mistakes we should be avoiding. That is where attorney Brian Douglas comes in. Brian, I'm so glad you're here today.
Thanks for having me.
This is super important, and I know we were kind of chatting on commercial break, but what I want to start with is, can you really talk your way out of a ticket?
Have you ever tried?
I have tried multiple times, and I have failed multiple times.
And I succeeded once. So I've got you there.
Whatever.
I've found different responses to that question. I met a woman not that long ago. She said she's cried every single time and always gotten out of it. Actually, she said, correction, I got one ticket, but it was from a female officer.
Okay.
So I've met men, I've met women that have cried, they've tried everything. Honestly, the funniest thing that ever worked that I had a client do was he had the get out of jail free card from Monopoly, and when he handed the officer his license, he handed the card with it, officer started cracking up, and he had him right then and there at that first instant, and he let him go. He gave him a warning.
Well, he diffused it, and I feel like, I mean, popular to, belief, it's sort of objective, isn't it? Or rather subjective. A police officer can pull you over, and I feel like he's already kind of made up his mind before he gets out of his car, but he still has that right to make the decision, right?
Sure, that's exactly right. They're your best friend, so you want to be respectful to them. They're your ally, to your point. If anyone's going to make a decision right there on the spot, it's them. So if you're cooperative, if you follow their instructions, if you're nice to them, they're coming in. Imagine how nervous you are. We've all been there. Your heart's fluttering. You don't know, was I speeding? How fast was I going? Am I going to get a ticket with my insurance, et cetera, et cetera? All that runs through your mind. But you kind of have an idea of the situation. But this officer's walking up to you. They have no idea what they're walking into. So if you're that nervous when you know what's going on and you know that it's a known quantity, an identified police officer, imagine how they feel.
Right, especially at night when they can't really see through the window and they have to use their flashlight, I'm sure.
Yeah, they don't know who's in the car with you. And there's been horrible stories, obviously, that have happened where, their issues have come, or the other traffic, they've got to deal with you and do their job with the matter at hand, but then they have everything else going on around them that they have to take care of as well.
So, Brian, then really the question is, when should we be fighting a ticket? When we get pulled over, should we try to fight it then, or should we wait and try to fight it later in court? I mean, what do you say here?
Yeah, you're never going to fight it then. It's like watching the NFL. The players fight the penalties, but have you ever seen the referee pick the flag up and go away and say, oh, I was just kidding?
Yeah.
Literally never.
Sorry, my mistake. The penalty always stands. So fighting it on the scene, on the side of the road, never a good idea.
Right.
There's implications to having tickets, to having traffic citations. Your insurance goes up. There's a financial burden. Depending on how many points you accumulate, your insurance rates can really go up. You could lose your license ultimately. So, it's always a good idea to consult with an attorney and try to figure out if you can fight it or if you want to fight it and save some points on your license, save your insurance rates, preserve your driving record. Because a lot of times things can be worked out. Plea deals can be worked out. Defensive driving school can happen, and then prosecutors may go easier on you. They may reduce it to another kind of fine or another kind of citation to where maybe it's a non-moving violation and it doesn't go against the points in your insurance record.
That makes sense. So we talked about the things that would make the police officer more comfortable and therefore give you a better chance of not getting a ticket. But what are some mistakes that we should avoid that'll make the whole process easier?
Less is more when you're talking to the officer. Obviously, answer their questions. I don't mean just crack your window a little bit and be, follow their instructions and be cooperative and be pleasant with them. But don't try to start talking with them. Don't try to start arguing with them. I didn't do this, or I never speed. I'm sorry. I was only going 21 over. I mean, let the officer steer the conversation because it is a criminal engagement, right? You're being charged with a crime if you're cited for a traffic violation, be it speeding or stop sign, moving violations, or an accident. So, there are Miranda rights, and I don't mean call your lawyer and refuse to talk to the police like you see on television, but less is more, because you're not going to talk your way out of it. And the more you say, the more either you might aggravate the officer, escalate the situation unintentionally, or say things that you can't take back later.
Right.
So we definitely know what not to do, and I know my brother-in-law is a police officer. He says have your insurance and your registration, everything, just bind it up and ready to go. Is there any last tip that you would give our viewers today if they do get pulled over?
Be respectful, follow their instructions, and cooperate, do whatever you can, and be prepared just like that if you have that. I also tell people, have your hands where they can see it, because again, they're walking up, they don't know, so have your stuff out, hands up on your steering wheel, and it makes the officer that much more comfortable with the situation that they're walking into.
Very easy, Brian. You seem like a real voice of reason. We're going to tell people how they can get in contact with you in case they ever have any issues or questions to ask you. So thanks for coming on.
Great, thanks for having me.
All right, man. And now to learn more about dealing with law enforcement and to get in contact with Brian Douglas, call 770-933-9009 or visit briandouglaslaw.com.